A special meeting of the Board of Trustees of Harlandale Independent School District will be held Thursday, July 28, 2016, beginning at 5:05 p.m. Central Office, PDC, 102 Genevieve, San Antonio, Texas, 78214. The board may go into closed session on any agenda item if permitted under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. In such event, the board president will announce the applicable government code section prior to the board going into closed session. Meeting called to order. To my right, I have Mr. Tomas Uresti, Mr. Ricardo Moreno.
Present.
To my left, I have Mr. Juan Mancha
Present.
and Mr. Carlos Quesada.
Present.
And Mrs. Carrillo and Mr. Abuni should be arriving throughout the meeting. I do here declare a quorum present. Mr. Madrigal, would you like to introduce your staff, sir?
Yes, Madam Chair, with us this evening, we have our Executive Director for Operations, Mr. Jerry Soto.
Here.
We have our Executive Director also for Human Resources, Ms. Diane Tudyk.
Here.
And then we also have, again, our Public Information Officer, Andrew Fernandez.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Madrigal. First item is citizens to be heard. 30-minute limit, 5-minute maximum per speaker. Citizens are offered an opportunity to address the board without prior approval. The board, however, will not comment or engage in discussion. Presentation shall be informative only. No board action will be taken. The topics addressed shall be limited to those specifically included on the board's agenda and or school district related. Presentation shall not include statements which may be considered defamatory, inflammatory, and or threatening against a person or the district. And speakers shall not mention students' names unless naming your own child, nor address a complaint against a district employee or officer. Such complaints will be handled through the guidelines set out in district policy. At all other times, members of the public shall not enter into any discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board. The first person I have is Mrs. Josie Scales. Ms. Scales?
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board, Mr. Madrigal and members of cabinet. After seeing the schematic designs on July the 18th at the school board meeting, I was very disappointed in what we were receiving from the architect in the design of the buildings for Carol Bell and Vestal. I was very excited when RVK was selected as architect because taking into account what RVK did for us on STEM, the band halls and the field houses, I felt we were going to get two great designs for these two elementary schools. I was so disappointed to see basically two boxed layouts for design. I have now found out that almost everyone in the community who has seen the schematic design of the two buildings feel exactly the same way. I know this board has asked RVK to go back and do a few things to enhance the buildings. After our Bond 2015 oversight meeting last night, I feel they have only done the bare minimum to do what the board asked them to do. We have seen what RVK has the ability to do, but what they have done here for some reason is not the great work we have seen in the past from this architect. I also realized that our budget at some point was in question, so I thought these two designs were the best we were going to be able to get. We learned at the meeting last night that is not the case. Cost is about material and square footage, not the building design. What we have received in the way of classrooms and interior of the building is not in question. It is the building design. It basically appears not a lot of thought went into these two building designs. The children at these two elementary schools deserve the same beautiful elementary schools as our other elementary schools. Look at Bel Air and look at Columbia Heights and our other elementary schools. They all basically have a different and unique design. They're not built in a simple box layout. I'm asking you to please give the Carroll Bell and Vestal students, as well as the community, two beautiful schools that can be compared to any other schools in Harlandale. I'm asking you to please have the architect go back, do the job we know they can do. Remember, additional cost for a better design does not come into play here. We have been told a better design with the same material and the same square footage can be done by this architect without increasing the cost. We have seen it happen. Please ask our architect to go back and do the great job we know they can do. We deserve that from them. Finally, I'm asking you to please go back and review the time period for upgrades at Terrell Wells Middle School and Leal Middle School parking lots. Just a review. The extensive work on these two parking lots will cause months of temporary parking for teachers and everyone. At Leal, especially, anyone visiting the school will have to park on the other side of South Cross and cross the street to get over to Leal. South Cross is a very busy street. Please remember, we're talking about all the people going to all the sporting events at Leal. The construction timeline right now has a completion date of March 17th. Why not just wait and have the actual construction done over the summer of 2017? I know there may be other things involved that I'm not thinking about, but a couple of Leal community members have questioned the timing of this construction in their parking lot. So I'm just asking for a review to make sure we are doing this at the best time possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gales. The next speaker is Ms. Lillian Zapata.
Good evening, board members. On June the 20th board meeting, I came before you and stated that it seemed that RVK had just added windows, doors, and colors to Jasmine Engineering's program design, and that in my opinion, no architectural design had been attempted. I still stand by that statement. I know RVK can design beautiful buildings. We've seen it in the recent projects they have done at Harlandale, the STEM High School, the band house, the field houses, and the health science technology buildings. Board members, these buildings will be your legacy for many, many years to come. Our children deserve the best that this community and you as board members can give them. And that is why I'm asking for you to please send the designs on Carroll Bell and Vestal back to RVK. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zapata. Ms. Gina Castañeda.
Good afternoon, board members, staff, and community. I'm here today not only as a community member, taxpayer, but also as a co-chair of the Bond Oversight Committee. Yesterday, the Bond Oversight Committee, we met in regards to the Carroll Bell Vestal projects. We were disappointed on the designs from RVK. Although RVK has done a wonderful job in the past projects, I feel that they're running a little bit short on this one. But I do think if we work with them, we can get a good design from them. I have the utmost faith. But we do believe that the design does need some work. So I want to say, let's do a redo on the designs. And I also want to say ditto to the past two previous speakers, because we feel that same way, and they're also committee members. The second item is also the parking lots. It is true that there is going to be some displacement on parking if we do go by the timeline. So the suggestion of waiting till the end of the year or to the next summer, I think would be a good idea. We also need to look at, and the feeling that I got, that these projects were just budgeted and there was really no thought put behind them. So I do think you need to go back and study those projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Castañeda. The next speaker is Ms. Liz Limon.
Good evening, board members. Bonneville site met last night, Wednesday evening. We were in agreement that the design of the Vestal and Carol Bell needed to go back and redesign. RVK was hired to do design experience, and the design of our newest schools are very important to our community. Most have been their work of the design is and can be impeccable. We ask that RVK listen to our community, our project manager, of course, our board members, the stakeholders of our tax dollars to work at its best design. For designs and accuracy and experience, we bring forward pride and joy to our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Limon. So the next item is hear and take appropriate action to the modifications to the Carabel and Vestal Elementary School projects.
Good evening. Just want to introduce members that are here. Coy Ballard from our office, Fermin Mendez, and Paul Molina. This is the night that we are bringing the request for modification to the design. So in order to expedite, since you have short time, we're going to pass this presentation to Heath Winrick from RVK, who's here, so as Conrad Martinez and George Vaughn.
Thank you, Ms. Altima.
Thank you. I'm going to take this hand mic and use it.
Sure.
So what we're going to do tonight is, in lieu of showing the same renderings that we showed at the last presentation, just with them updated, we're actually going to show the 3D modeling of them, and so then we can kind of walk around a little bit if y'all want to see anything specific. But we're bringing 3 options on the Vestal site. So at the last board meeting, there was a request to reduce the amount of metal panel across the board on the project, specifically at the corners of the building, and to define the main entry greater. So what we've done here on these schemes is kind of kept the ribbon accent metal panel across the top. In this particular scheme, we've introduced a tower element. Yes, this is Vestal. Okay.
Okay, I have a question on this one, sir. Where the windows were added over on the side where the library is,
Yes.
if we can move over, it's on the front.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said library.
Right there.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So there's not a cover above those windows, or,
There is right.
Oh, it's-
You can see right here.
okay,
So we've made all this glass for library here and here, and then we've covered those sections of of window as well.
Okay, so would that be sufficient cover in order to keep those windows from, I guess, getting over time, maybe that scale that kind of develops on them from rain and other things that,
Well, so, I mean, they're definitely protected. It's about a 3-foot overhang. If the wind-driven rain is strong enough, I mean, they will get wet. I think the only way to truly, if we want to kind of protect them in that manner, we'd have to build something a little bit more substantial, like at the, this kind of covered walk at the main drop-off. But this is definitely getting more protection than typically. A lot of times on the windows along a building, you don't have any kind of overhang at all.
would that be quite a bit more? I don't know if you would be able to answer that, or Ms. Azima?
No.
To have maybe a walkway that goes across that area too?
Similar to what is over
Kind of
here.
like that side over there, or?
Yeah, and so kind of you want to, I mean, we could look at wrapping this corner and tying it into here, if that's kind of what I'm hearing. I mean, there's, I can't say exactly what the cost would be, but to cover that portion there would be a cost to it, but we'd have to evaluate it for a specific dollar amount. But I think that's something we could look at doing. I am a little concerned if we, these are fairly deep overhangs or these canopies, because it's for kids and people to walk under.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we put all these up against the building, it's going to provide a pretty heavy shadow. And so when you're inside, it's going to reduce the amount of light that's going into there. But I'm just kind of saying that as a comment. I mean, it's not going to black it out, but it's definitely going to reduce the amount.
Okay.
So this was one concept, kind of more of a tower element.
That would define the entrance right there, that,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
All right. And then we also, we did a couple, this one is a little bit of a variation on that tower. A little bit lighter, not as, not a four-sided tower, but this is more of just like kind of a blade element coming out here. Really opening up this corner a little bit, making it lighter, a little bit more of an entry piece there. Just to kind of give you the view from the other side. Okay, and then on this third scheme, we looked at something completely different. So on this, on this option, what we looked at doing was, what we looked at doing is removing the metal banding that went all along the perimeter and trying to look at that as a little bit more just using that metal panel as an accent piece. So that would make all of these corners and around the top, this is all masonry, it's all brick. And then we would look to introduce the metal panel just kind of in this center section. We're looking at a different drop-off canopy along this front part. And then
Can you point out exactly where the entrance would be? Is it where that light square is right there?
right, yes, ma'am. So, the thought is that we could do something here at this, just at this kind of bay of the entry, to where if we wanted to raise this section of canopy roof up or something to kind of designate it as a little bit taller. It's like I'm stuck in a tree here. Let me show it here from the other. So then also kind of looking at it from this side, just kind of how it is reducing the amount of metal panel all the way around the building. You know, we've increased these windows into those classrooms like we discussed. And this will be the same on every scheme.
And there's no windows in the middle? Right there?
This middle section right here is a toilet room, is the main kind of toilet block for the second floor.
Oh, so there's restrooms in that area?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and so on either side of it, we tried to put as many spaces as possible in this section that didn't require a window. So on either side of that, we've got a classroom here and a classroom on that side. But we've increased that amount of glazing there. But again, you can kind of see how there's a lot less metal panel as we move our way around.
So all that area, that's the lighter shaded area of the actual building, is a metal panel?
So the only metal panel like would be right here.
Okay.
All of this is brick.
It
It's
is
just
brick.
a different color brick, and we've got some projected bandings,
Mhm.
right? So it's not just, brick going straight,
Mhm.
comes up and it has little courses that bump out. It'll give a nice relief and shadow line across there.
Okay.
And then the bottom brick is a separate color.
Is a darker shade?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question. Mrs. Ima, if we had to go back to the drawing board and ask for you to bring us back something completely different on both Carabel and Vestal, would we still be on time with our projects if we asked for that? And if you tried to bring us back something that looked different than what we're seeing now than just two plain boxes, which is what I felt like at the beginning, when we first received these schematic designs on Vestal and Carabel, and I'm just wondering if that's possible.
Yes, it is possible. Let me just step back a little bit. We asked them to do this 3D modeling, as you recall from the last board meeting. We promised you to do that so that the board will have a better perspective. Changing the design does not change the cost estimate that we have proposed, because those cost estimates were per division of material and labor. So that being said, that's not going to impact the budget. What's going to be impacted is the schedule. The schedule has enough time for construction where we don't need all that time anyway. So pushing 2 weeks into construction timeline will still put us in finishing the project by end of May of 2018, which is on the schedule of the construction substantial completion. We're supposed to start December the 9th for groundbreaking this year, so we'll just start end of December by redesigning. But I don't see that being impacting the overall schedule. It will only impact the design schedule, but not the overall schedule.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Moreno?
I guess when it comes to this, I mean, in looking at it, to me, I guess it looks better. I mean, in my eyes, I mean, it doesn't really phase or give me great concern. I mean, I don't see the issue of it just being a box and this and that. I do have a preference for perspective option 2 in terms of the way you built kind of like a little dome over it. I'm not, I think I've said it from the beginning, I'm not big on the colors, but everyone else seems to be on board with the colors for some reason, maybe because it's elementary. But with me, I like the no frills. I like it being just what it is and going on from there, because to me it's like at the end of the day, I understand maybe from looking at it from a secondary perspective, but as long as the building looks nice on the outside and it's well put together and kept up to date and airbrush or power washed throughout the year, I don't think the kids really matter. It's what's inside the classroom. Inside the classroom, if we're providing in terms of an aesthetic and appealing look inside, it's going to look fine from the outside. So to me, it's like I like the dome that you have up in the front to designate that this is the entrance, and then in combination with perspective option 3, which is pretty much bare in terms of no color.
This is the option you like without the parapet on top.
Yeah, with the
Right.
top, and then, I mean, to me, I would rid
What-
of the coloring of the metal.
If I may say something, Mr. Moreno, one of the community members last night was suggesting to take this out and then bring this up
That might make it more.
to distinguish the front.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Casella?
Yeah, no, at the last meeting, I know I had mentioned that the paneling and the coloration and the question of whether it would fade. I'm still wondering if it's, I'm not talking about a year from now, 2 years, like 10, 15 years from now, with the San Antonio heat, San Antonio sun, whether or not it's gonna fade. So I'm not a fan of the paneling, and I know you answered the question, you said it has like a 25-year warranty or something like that. But I'm not a fan of the color paneling. And then when we take into consideration if we are gonna create some kind of steeple or something, I don't know what we're gonna come up with, if you could please just maybe take into consideration the area that we're in, the missions and stuff like that, you know, maybe factor that into it, however way you can, you know. I know I'm not an architect myself, I'm a bad drawer, I really am, but you know, if we could look at some of the historical buildings, maybe if you could take a look at Harlandale Middle School. Have you ever seen Harlandale Middle School? If you could just take a drive by there. It's a beautiful school. I just remembered, I saw the picture outside in the hallway. And it's just a beautiful historic school. If we could just, I don't know. I know RVK probably does tons of projects, and this is just a little project, but this is the world to us right here in Harlandale.
I don't think this is a little project. I think this is a very important project, and I think that they understand from us for the past couple of weeks how we've been conveying the messages on behalf of the district. I don't think they're allowing themselves to think this is a smaller, they've done a smaller projects for you. That was even $300,000. They've done several projects for you. Harlandale has been the primary K-12 work that they've done. This is the first elementary schools. They're willing to cooperate and do what is needed. I think one of the things that will help is to let them know that those parapet, it's going to help us in the cost if they come down anyway.
Sure.
Okay, so that's one. You asked a question about time. Within time, yes, it's going to fade. It's going to be maintenance. It's going to be power wash that is going to be required because that's not brick. That's metal.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
fade.
it's not a needed. They did that for aesthetics.
Sure.
If that's not really going to touch your heart that much, which hasn't touched the community's heart either, well, we can do away with that. We can make the front taller and make it more distinguished, even make it rounder, or like Band Hall has a more of a rotunda shape in the front. That's another option that the RVK can look at. One of the other things that came out last night for the purpose of the discussion, they thought that this is too linear, and just if they would make it a little bit more different distinction between the exterior rather than all flat, one linear, like you have on early college, that would enhance the overall look. So I think they're going to go back to the drawing board and bring it back again, but if the board will allow a couple of more weeks to them, that will not impact the overall schedule.
I think we're all willing to do that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Munch, I'm sorry.
Mr. Soto, can I get your opinion on this, sir? I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel that the layout, because you're the one that's going to end up doing the maintenance and the cleaning and you know, whatever it's going to take and whatever is going to be needed. So I would love to get your opinion on how you feel about it. Do you feel that it doesn't give it that?
You know, I know there was some
That
comments
pizzazz or
also.
whatever
Yes, sir.
we're-
There was some comments about some pigeons, you know, roosting on some areas when we do, and RVK does take that into account. The paneling, as you guys have mentioned, we're not favoring that also because of maintenance. You know, it does fade. It does need a cleaning, so that can be removed, and I believe you guys are on point with that. I believe the windows was a great addition. My biggest concern was, and they addressed it here, is they built a little footing for those windows. As you looked at our band halls and early college, the windows were flush with the flat work. Here, they actually put a little footing as where he puts that little hand. That little footing is going to help those concerns that another board member had about water coming in. So I think we're on the right track, and the community also they do want some changes to this building.
Thank you, sir. I value your opinion,
Yes, sir.
and I know you're the one that's gonna end up being in charge of this department, so thank you.
I'd just like to introduce Ms. Carrillo, who just joined us right now. Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Okay, so I think that we pretty much agree that it could be better. And we know you've gone through some hard work, sir. We're not, trying to say that, but I would definitely like to take in consideration what Mr. Quesada said too, that, we live in an area where the missions are definitely a big deal for a lot of us who live here in the South Side, and that we love our missions. And if there's anything that can kind of incorporate that a little bit, and I think we all agree that that paneling above there may not be something that we're all very pleased with, but the other building, I think, is where it has the two-tone brick. If you could go back to that picture.
For Vestal?
Mm-hmm. Right there. But we do agree that, of course, we still want the windows in the library, and then we do want the front entrance to be somehow aesthetically pleasing, and for it to stand out and look a little bit, I guess, either rounded off, not so flat and square. And so that's just, I think, what I'm hearing from my fellow board members. And yes, Mr. Uresti.
Just to clarify that the RVK didn't design these buildings. It was just a basic layout that Mrs. Zima did, basically to cover the square footage. So to say that they designed it, they didn't design it from the bottom up. It was already basically just laid out, but it wasn't a design. Jasmine was just trying to bring something to us so that we could get an idea of what we could do. But as far as it coming back looking like one of the missions, I would be totally against that. I'm not saying have something inclusive of that, but please don't make it come back look like one of the missions.
No, sorry, I didn't say it looked like one of the missions. I would say incorporate something.
Yeah, I think we could start from the bottom up and start all over again and just come with a different design completely. Hopefully there can be a third wing, and so we don't have to fuss over the windows anymore. I guess if you start from the bottom up, you may be able to do that, hopefully. So I'll leave it at that.
Does anybody else have any? Okay. So, did you want to show us the other renderings?
I'll go ahead and open it here real quick. So,
Okay.
On Carabel, really the only change we had made from the last one was the ribbon windows on those back classrooms. But this is going to be the model for this one as well. So those are the ribbon windows there. But if I'm hearing everything correctly, I mean, we're going to kind of revisit this Carabel as well. If I'm hearing correctly.
Well, I guess we can all. So, we'll make that motion here in a moment. Were there any other, I didn't know there was parking lots?
The parking lots, I think, are...
Okay, that's the next item.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that RVK and our project manager, Mrs. Zima, work together to bring back a different schematic design for both Carabel and Vestal. And come back with something that might be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for both elementaries and see what we can come up with. And that's my motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just real quick.
Yes, Mr. Udesky?
Did we get anything on the drop-off as far as moving it?
Off of Pleasanton?
Yes.
So we've sent in all the material to the city, have that meeting that I mentioned at the last board meeting. The lady that city asked us to meet with is on vacation. She comes back next week. And then, I mean, so we're definitely going to address it.
Okay.
And so until we have that meeting, then we'll kind of know where we can, some of our options are.
Thanks.
Okay. So I made a motion. Mr. Udesky seconded the motion. All those in favor? All those against? Motion passes. The next item is discussion and possible action on the presentation of the schematic design and design development for Leal, Terwells, and Central Office parking lots.
Madam President and Board and Mr. Madrigal and staff, thank you very much. We have with us tonight Kenny Rohde from CDS Murray, who's the design engineer, the civil engineer for these three projects. We're bringing these back to you to give you an update on the projects from what you heard at the last board meeting. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Rohde.
Last time we met, you had asked that we talk about the cost savings for the 8 spaces at central office. So the first slide shows that savings of about $5,000 for those 8 spaces. We're going to get our site plans up, but where we are is we're about 50% done with CDs on the parking lots. The geotechnical work is done. The subsurface utility work should be finished next week. So we're moving along pretty well. So just in case we don't get that up, everybody has my presentation in their packet. So I'll just talk from what you have in your packet. The first parking lot is central office. If you notice there, we've got a heavy dark shade of gray and a light shade. The dark shade is going to be heavy duty pavement. The light shade is light duty pavement. This is the final layout for this parking lot. And right now, we're working on the grading and drainage.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Madrigal?
Sir, if you can kind of, I think it'll help our board too, and it'll help staff, just because of some of the dialogue we'll need to have. I know there's a timeline already established, but again, us knowing when school starts and when staff gets back and kind of knowing the way our school year goes as far as the things that come into season and what time of the year and football, basketball, and when are the times that our parking lots are really very highly occupied. If you can kind of give us, like for example, by project, basically for what would be the starting time and ending time for each one, it'll give us an idea.
Okay, that depends. If we go out to bid in August and we award at the end of September, then I'll go through that timeline. We need to discuss phasing. You know, obviously, we can't build the projects all at one time. So we're considering, and we're going to be meeting with your staff next week to talk about that. But Leal, well, let's talk about central office. We're hoping to build the front half first and the back half second. We will be talking to the staff about how many parking spots we'll be displacing and how many we'll need to find for that operation. On Terwells, we're going to try to keep about 45 spaces available, build it in 2 phases. change the parent drop-off to where the bus drop-off is, and I have some ideas of where we might locate the bus drop-off. I think it's a fact that teachers, students, parents, everybody's going to have to deal with a project under construction, and that's on all of these campuses. So when we talk about timeline, the more phases we have, the longer it takes to build them. We're going to try and do Terrell Wells in 2 phases. And the first phase would be to displace the drop-off lane and build the new one, and then bring the drop-off back to the newly built drop-off lane and finish that parking lot. To address Leal, we're looking at 2 major phases and 2 minor phases. So we would build approximately half of Leal, leaving the drop-off lane where it is now, and then use the built part as a makeshift drop-off lane. We don't have as many options on Leal. We will need some parking in the adjacent elementary school. We're thinking we're going to need about 40 spaces over there. And so that will displace probably staff. And we'll need to be talking to Harlandale staff about what we can get and where that is. So next week is when we're really going to tackle phasing. So we talk about schedule. We're thinking central office could actually, it's the easiest. We think it could be done by the first week in the year. We're thinking the 1st of February, mid-February for Terrell Wells, and then the end of February, early March for Leal. But all that has to do with what we do when and what we do during Christmas break and those types of things. Because the more phasing we add to these, the more cost we add to these. Obviously the lowest price is to build it all at one time in the summer. So if you ask for schedule, you probably got a lot longer answer than you wanted.
Yeah, that's actually was going to be one of my questions on.
Well, what it does,
schedule
at least what it does, it allows our board to make decisions. And yes, we really do have 3 different projects in the sense they're parking lot projects, but experiences from being here long enough tell you that the central office is not a big concern to me because mainly it's adults and you're building the front first and then the back, so that's a 2-phase. And I know that's how the cost and things like that. Our biggest concern is, and then Terrell Wells, because across the street from McCullum, we have parking lots in the back at Terrell Wells and McCullum that we can manage to work and get by. Our biggest concern, or my biggest concern, as I hear you go over the different phases and timeline, is Leal Middle School, because of the idea that we have extracurricular activities and limited parking lot will always need to be across the street. We have the ample parking area across the street at Collier. There's enough parking there, but it's the idea of the safety of having kids and parents and adults cross back and forth that light there between Collier and Leal.
Let me add
Understood.
something, Mr. Mandel, if you don't mind, to augmenting what City Attorney was saying. In order to save more money for the district, it costs more time for all of us. We're going to bid this project, sit propose more independently. So one of the projects can move to summer, i.e. Leal, whereas the other 2 can be done sooner, since you're gonna have different contractors. Unless one contractor comes in and loves it, but at the current time, these projects are treated separately.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Okay, I think Ms. Carrillo had a question, and then Mr. Mancha. Yes, Mrs. Carrillo.
Thank you, Ms. Cáceres. I do have a question. On Leal Middle School, the total cost is $1,026,480. Cost of work is $858,000. What does the rest? Where is the rest of the $168,000 going to?
It's a majority of it is going to CDS. Our fee was lowered to 4% on parking, so we're getting, say, 40, close to 38,000. The rest of it is CDS, which is their design, and their reimbursable under their design. for them to do our fire. So, that's how that has.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's like 12% that is going to CDS for overall the services. 12% of the 858,000.
I guess my question was gonna be, will it be less cost efficient if we do it in the summer, Leal? Because, you know, we're talking about,
Yeah, that would give you the best
that way
price.
you can do it all in one face instead of two faces?
Yes.
So would that reduce that price? I mean, I'm not gonna say it's gonna reduce it a lot, but it's gonna reduce it a little bit since you don't have to worry about, you know, doing one part and then waiting for everybody to be able to go in and then do the second part. So I was just wondering if we were to do the other two projects, since we have the room and the space, I think we can start on those, and then if we can, I would prefer to wait for Leal to be done in the summer. Because no matter what, they always attract a lot of people to their football games, and they hold their football games there. But then when basketball season starts, they also hold, I mean, they get packed when they have basketball games and volleyball games. So throughout most of the year, I know it's pretty crowded there. So that was one of my biggest concerns, you know, after school.
Okay, so June one phase does review.
Yeah, so would
does-
June
it
and
does
July
save
be
money.
enough time for you to be able to do it?
It will take about 3 months.
3 months?
So what we would do is bid it out and be ready on the day after school's out, start
So
that
can we
project.
work on it real hard, maybe only take half of September? And take 2.5 months?
Yes, we can.
Because I'm just saying, because usually the teachers go in the first couple of weeks in September, so the students don't go in until the 20-something, am I correct?
It's in August.
I know the teachers do, but the